Hey, I'm Org, and in this video I'm going to review the Japanese Tier 1 cruiser, the Hashidate. Why? Because yesterday the open beta of World of Warships kind of quietly started in effect. Apparently it's not open beta, the developers are doing a stress test on the servers, which means that anyone can download and play the game, at least until they reach some undefined maximum number of people releasing it at the moment. Which really sounds to me like they're going to actually put the game into open beta probably this coming weekend. Anyway, the Hashidate-Class, they weren't actually cruisers. They were gunboats. In fact, they were the last class of ocean-going gunboat produced for the Imperial Japanese Navy. There were two ships in this class, the Hashidate and the Uji. Both had a fairly uneventful early careers. The Hashidate blockaded Hong Kong until the surrender of that city in Christmas 1941, while the Uji patrolled the Yangtze River based out of Shanghai for the first few years of its career. This changed in 1944 when the US submarine campaign began really taking a toll on Japanese shipping. Both gunboats were upgraded with depth charges and more AA guns, and sent out to protect Japanese shipping. The Hashidate was sunk when escorting a convoy from Hong Kong to Taiwan. The convoy was bombed by B-24s, and 3 of the ships were damaged. 2 days later, an American submarine spotted the Hashidate towing the most heavily damaged ship. The submarine managed to torpedo the Hashidate, although the ship it was towing managed to survive one more day before it was sunk by American bombers. The Uji actually survived the war, although the convoys it was escorting were often attacked and it often had ships it was escorting sunk. The Uji was given to the Chinese Republican Navy after Japan's surrender, although the People's Liberation Navy eventually took the ship and it was only scrapped in the 1980s. In World of Warships, the Hashidate is my pick of the 2 Tier 1 cruisers. It has 420mm guns in twin turrets. This may sound weak when comparing to the 152mm guns on the US cruisers, but just look at the calibers a bit misleading. The Hashidate has a significantly better rate of fire and a slightly better turret traverse than the American cruiser. However, the American cruiser has slightly better alpha damage, gun range, and chance to cause fires. In my opinion, this gives the edge to the Hashidate. At this tier, it's the DPM with high explosive that seems to be the deciding factor. And the Hashidate wins this with a theoretical maximum of 96,800 hit points damage per minute. That's compared to the Aerie, which only gets 69,000 theoretical maximum hit points per minute. I have to say theoretical because in practice the damage done comes nowhere near that. In practice, the Hashidate seems to do about 400 damage per shell on average, while the Aerie gets around 500 damage per shell, which erodes the DPM lead of the Hashidate by a significant amount. But what really makes the Hashidate superior to the Aerie, in my opinion at least, is the extra combat capacity of the ship. The Hashidate gets 12,400 hit points compared to the 9,900 of the US cruiser, and in my experience at least that extra 25% hit points more than makes up for any of the deficiencies of the Hashidate. I mean, other than that firepower, I think the two ships are fairly equal. Hashidate can go at 19 knots compared to the 20 of the Aerie. The Hashidate has a slightly tighter turning circle and lower detection range, while the Aerie is more responsive to rudder commands. One weakness of the Hashidate is that if a turret is destroyed or damaged, then you lose half your firepower, while an Aerie in the same situation will only lose a quarter of their guns. The turrets on the Hashidate are also weaker than those of the Aerie. I noticed that I was destroying enemies' Hashidate's turrets often, but I didn't actually have mine destroyed all that I actually don't think at all now that I think about it. So I'm not really sure if that's actually a problem or just something I noticed, but whatever. The Hashidate also has very good firing arcs for the guns, meaning that you can angle your ship very acutely towards the enemy and still fire a full broadside. This was my main strategy in the Hashidate. I would approach the enemy at an acute angle to minimise the area I was presenting to the enemy while firing a full broadside. Other than that, I focus on gunning down the weakest enemies first, and also focus firing with my allies, all targeting the same ship to knock it out quickly. At tier 1 matches, they'll be decided by your kind of accuracy and your ability to fire at the right enemies at the right time. So it's kind of a good opportunity to work on your aiming and teamwork. So, in this game, basically I've gone with a massive fleet of my allies, and we have just encountered enemy ships. They are at the moment just out of my range. Actually, I did say what the range is? I don't think I did. The range of the Hashidate is just over 9 kilometers. So unfortunately I can't quite hit anybody yet. But very soon, I have to say very soon because it's a slow ship, so it actually does take a while to get places. The only real advantage to that is that at this tier all ships are basically around the same speed. So it doesn't really, well, it's not really that significant. Anyway, an Ares popped around the corner and it's just within our maximum range. So fire my forward guns and turn to bring my rear guns to bear. But no hits yet, but these ones look good. 2 hits, firing at near maximum range, which is pretty good, but the guns on the Hashidate, they are pretty accurate. So you can get pretty consistent hits out at maximum range. Spot the enemy destroyer and figure that's basically always my top priority in a cruiser. I actually screwed up my aim there because I thought it collided with that enemy cruiser, so I thought it would lose a bit more speed than that and didn't aim quite as far enough. Then my shells go just over. Destroyers are quite narrow, so you've got to get the range pretty well spot on, and again I shoot just over it. And I see that enemy ship's actually beached itself, but I don't actually have the gun range to hit it apparently. Oh no, maybe that was just a glitch in the replay because my shells landed right beside it. There we go, I get 2 hits, it's trying to reverse it out. And it's firing at me now, as well as another enemy ship, so I'm taking a bit of damage. I did manage to set it on fire. You tend to get a lot of fires down at this tier, but they don't do a lot of damage. Just because, well, the damage of fire done is kind of tied to the hit points of the ship that you're shooting at. And these ships have very low hit points. And I actually missed the area I was shooting at there, but I managed to hit the destroyer which had rammed into it. But I was so busy aiming I didn't notice that I ran myself aground. And while that was happening, I sunk that destroyer. Possibly through fire, I'm not sure, or I missed the area again. Put a couple of shots into that area before it... Actually, are these all Ares? I can't tell on that one because of the fire. Anyway, put a couple of shots in that enemy and then turn back to this one. Put some shots through. But it's going away from me. But, well, the fire manages to kill it.
Enemy cruiser destroyed.
And here we have a Chikuma. And, well, this is a tier 2 cruiser, which puts me at a significant disadvantage. But I decided to try switching to armor piercing, because from memory the Chikuma is the only ship that you'll encounter with armor. And I managed to actually penetrate a citadel on my first broadside and sink it there. Which, I'm not actually sure about that. I usually stick with high explosive, because, well, armor piercing will just punch straight through the Hashidate or the Ares or the Chester, and also the destroyers. The Chikuma is the only one with armor, but it doesn't actually seem to penetrate the Chikuma's armor very reliably at all. And I think the Chikuma's also only got kind of thick armor over its citadel, but no armor anywhere else. So unless you hit the citadel, your shells will punch straight through anyway. So I tend to stick with high explosive. It just doesn't really seem worth the hassle to switch to armor piercing in most situations. I think I got lucky there rather than something you could reliably replicate. Anyway, back to the game. We are losing. We've won the fight on this side, but the enemy's won the fight on the other side. And there are now 5 of us versus 7 of the enemy. And I was thinking at this point, I want to go with my team the long way around this island, but I decided we have to get to the cap circle quickly because the enemy are probably heading towards our cap and we need to get to theirs first. Spot an AFK enemy ship in the cap, which gives us a bit of hope, but the enemy are capping our base. And I hesitate a bit here because I don't think I can get back to our base in time to stop the cap. But I also, looking at how quickly that cap counter is going up, I probably won't make any difference going to the enemy cap. So I decided that I'd better try heading back. But we encounter 2 enemy ships, make that 3 enemy ships, and they're all basically firing at me. And you can see here I'm actually shooting at the wrong target. I should be aiming at the gunboat in behind. But I don't know, I was actually focusing on trying to get a course that's going to take me back to the cap, while hopefully not getting me killed. I managed to get 1 hit on this enemy, and a couple more. I actually managed to get a Citadel hit there with high explosive, which does a lot of damage to that Hashidate. But, well, if you get the impression that we're about to lose this game, you'd be right. We've kind of got 3 of our ships in the enemy cap, and 1 heading back. But the 1 heading back, it's also a Hashidate, so it's not going to get there quickly. And there are also 2 enemy ships in the way. Actually, I think one of them left our cap circle, which is why we haven't lost yet. But there's not a lot of hope of this, engagement going our way. Though fortunately for us, that enemy cruiser is only firing its forward gun at us. It hasn't aimed itself very well, but I think it's done better now. And there goes the other 3 of the cruiser's 4-gun broadside. Fortunately, the Hashidate didn't actually take much damage from it. And there's a miss, which is always nice. But that last enemy ship's, well, the one that's in the cap, it's behind the island, so the Hashidate is going to have a hard time shooting at it. Well, they're exchanging broadsides now, but the American cruiser's broadside's pretty superior. Well, there's a tier 2 cruiser against a tier 1, so it's what you'd expect. And yep, we're about to lose it, so this guy's just going for the kill here, but wasn't to be. This final game I'm going to show you, it's probably the best game I've had so far in the Hashidate. And by so far, I mean I intend to sell the ship later, so it's going to be the best game I've ever had in the Hashidate, or will ever have. Unfortunately, I started on the wrong side of the map, and the enemy team all went the other way, so I've spent the first 4 minutes of the game kind of just getting here where I've first spotted my enemy ships. They are 2 destroyers, heading into the cap circle, and they've just come within range. And my first broadside on that unfortunate destroyer actually wrecks its engine, at least I think that's what it means. Second broadside sets it on fire. Third broadside wrecks its torpedo tubes. Fourth broadside knocks out one of its gun turrets. And the fifth finally doesn't do any critical damage, but by this point this guy has lost, well, 3/4 of its health. I think I just knocked out another one of its gun turrets. So a bit more damage there. And that's the enemy destroyer sunk.
Enemy destroyer blown
And
up.
here's his friend, who's already lost about 1/3 of its health. And I took out, well, its engine and one of its gun turrets there. And that was when I did 2,000 damage, but my allies kill it. Except I didn't actually notice, so I fired another broadside at it. And this enemy ship has come within range, so I fire away at it, and my shots just miss. Well, I get 1 hit, but mostly they miss. Second broadside does a little bit better, but I'm actually aiming to the left of it because I'm expecting it to turn away from the island, but it actually turns in the opposite direction, so I get very lucky there that I managed to set it on fire. But my next broadside misses because it has turned. It puts out the fire, but I'm doing a fair bit more damage to it with every broadside. Well, that one actually missed. Over and under, straddled it. So unlike that destroyer, I'm not doing a lot of critical damage here. And I switched to third person view because I was getting annoyed by the stutter in the replay. The replays in this game are not quite sorted yet. But it's close enough range you can see what's happening there. I managed to miss it with my last broadside and my allies got the kill again. But another enemy ship, well, two of them has appeared. And I kind of screw up a bit here because I'm shooting at the ship with the most hit points that's furthest away, but just now I decide to switch for the weaker ally that's closer so I can hit it more reliably. Managed to set it on fire. And you can see my counter go up, 10, fire 2 more, it goes up to 12, 2 more, it goes up to 14. So I'm not missing any shots at this range. And I get the kill, and I also get the high caliber medal, which I think means that I've destroyed 20% of the enemy's total hit points? Or maybe it's 30%. It's a lot of the enemy's hit points. And there's an enemy Eerie at near enough to maximum range. And I get one hit at that range, which is pretty okay. But my second broadside looks like it misses completely. So you can still hit things at maximum range, but there's a bit of luck involved. And unfortunately, right now I should be able to hit the enemy ship, but we just don't know where it is precisely. But as it comes around the headland, I should spot it, I think. Actually, I think I just saw it fire. There it is. I'm only going to get one broadside here. I am too far ahead, but take a second one. And I managed to get 3 hits there. And I think I took out its steering. I mean, I kind of screw up a bit here. I thought, based on the fact that that gunboat had been kind of hugging the back of the map, that when it encountered this enemy ship it would turn around and come back towards me. But possibly because I destroyed the steering, it just keeps going on its same course, so I don't get any more shots in for the rest of this game. And well, that's kind of the Hashidate. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it interesting or informative, and I'll see you all next time.